Welcome to The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. Here's your host, the biggest record nerd of them all, Nate Goyer.
Oh, well, hey, everyone, it's Nate. It's episode 527 of The Vinyl Guide, and I got to tell you, I'm back so quick with another interview. I mean, we just had Larry Mullins on talking about the Stooges. Here's what's happened. I was supposed to interview both Larry Mullins and Mike Watt together. They just did a Stooges tribute record for Record Store Day. It's a 40-minute version of We Will Fall. Larry lives out in Berlin, Mike lives in San Pedro, and I'm in Sydney. However, we did find time that we thought kind of worked for everyone. And guess what? Watt double booked himself, but no worries. That actually kind of worked out well because I was able to go in deep on Stooges talk with both Larry and Watt separately. So quite happy it worked out that way, but it was a fuck ton of work. But hey, it's all sorted now. So today, Mike Watt, legendary bass player and member of the creative community. He's one of the coolest guys you could ever imagine. I love talking to Watt, always so full of wisdom and humor. And he played with Iggy and the Stooges for 10 years, 126 months, as he'll let you know. Watt absolutely loves this band, loves those guys, and we even get a bit emotional today at some of the memories. Watt digs deep and shares his love and brotherhood with some of the best who's ever done it. That's Iggy, that's Ron and Scott Asheton, that's Steve Mackay, that's James Williamson, that's Dennis Tech, that's everyone who played a part in the Stooges' second and final run of their career. That also includes Larry Mullins, who, if you haven't heard that conversation, episode 526, go back and do it. We also dig deep into Stooge history, the rare recordings, and memories of those fellows and more. So don't forget this Record Store Day, Larry Mullins, Mike Watt, We Will Fall, only 1,000 copies available worldwide. Grab it if you can. Alrighty, let's get into our conversation with Mr. Mike Watt, sharing more tales of the Stooges. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have the criminally handsome Mike Watt. We're going to focus in today on the Stooges, especially in light of this new Record Store Day release from Org Music, a 40-minute version of We Will Fall, which is another in a long line of Stooges covers that Mike's done with Larry Mullins. Mike, welcome to the show. Now, tell me, what do the Stooges mean to you?
I got to help them for 10 and a half years, which is how I met Larry. But actually, without Stooges, I don't think we would have had our movement. So I owe them buttloads. You know, I never thought I would be getting to help them. 126 months. Pretty
wow,
incredible. I thought I owed him my best notes. Like you said, you call them covers, but it's me and Larry call them tributes. We're trying to make good on the debt we do owe them, and kind of reinterpreted. I think there's a tradition of that. I mean, there's the top 40 thing where you try to be a Xerox machine. I know Australia has big. Remember, I was there with Jay Mascis, and in the sidewalk, someone had, obviously when it was wet, when it was being made, play some fucking Stooges was in the sidewalk. So I think, because, you know, they didn't get really respect here when I was a boy.
No, do you remember the first time you heard Stooges? Do you remember?
Yeah, the first one was obviously not the first Stooges. It was actually the second album, Funhouse. And yeah, everybody I knew did not like that stuff. I mean, this is when it came out, right? Which is like 70, 71. So, you know, there was the one magazine here that I liked, and Richard Meltzer wrote for him, called Cream, and they liked him. But it was minority stuff. But, you know, the same thing happened in the movement. People like Captain Beefheart, Stooges, I think they were already doing what we got into later. So, yeah, they're pioneer people. I mean, you got to understand 1970, strange period because, I mean, when I think of the movement now, I think of it basically against arena rock because these people who thought they were doing rock and roll, it wasn't the Little Richard stuff, which is funny. When I asked Dig about a Raw Power song, Shake Appeal, he said it was all about Little Richard. This was some kind of Nuremberg rally thing. The idea of clubs, about seeing the band not as a little circus act, but something very visceral in your face. And like that, the records, you know. Then I heard Raw Power. Then I heard the first record. So it's a strange thing with me, because I'm only 13 in 1970. So what are they? 11 years older than me?
So you had the wherewithal as a young man to be listening to them.
Yeah, but it was not. I mean, some people join things to be part of the in thing. It was Stooges were not like that then, which was interesting when I started helping him and they're playing gigs. There weren't people their age at the gigs. It was all these younger people wanting to know where this music came from. Like Ronnie told me it was like talking to some old blues guy on the porch, and where I got to go right to the well. You know, no, I didn't have a third party. You know, I wasn't a hand puppet. The trip, you know, and then the same thing with the bass. You know, D Boon's mom put me on the bass, and that's where you put your retarded friend. You know, right field in Little League, and then actually something happened to me. I got really sick 25 years ago, and they had to have surgery and tubes in me, and I had to stop playing, which was the first time since I started. And it was Stooges music that helped me because there's not a lot of chord changes. It's a lot about the feel. And I think that's what Stooges was about, learning that part of music. The first gig I saw was T-Rex. See, if I would have known, they were playing up in Hollywood at the Whiskey at the time, a couple of years later in the early 70s. And in fact, Scotty, that star tattoo on his shoulder, there's no tattoo places in Hollywood. He had to come to Long Beach, was the other side of the harbor here from San Pedro. San Pedro's the harbor. I'm from Virginia, but my papa's a sailor, and this was closer to Vietnam. It's interesting how all this happened. So, like, me and Larry just thought should try to let people know about our experience. Because, yeah, I pulled a 10.5 year shift with them, and somehow there's something about music that goes beyond words. So we thought of us doing instrumental versions of some of their songs our way. It helped pay back on the debt that we owed those cats. Iggy, Ronnie, Scotty, Brother Steve. That's kind of when we did the first one. Is when we lost Brother Steve. First one had Scotty on the cover. So maybe it was right around then. Maybe, right? Because they only are within a year. We lose Ronnie in 2009, New Year's. And then 2014, 2015. Yeah, man. You always think you got time, you know? And then you don't. Although Ig's still going.
Oh, God bless Ig. So how did you get the phone call to be the guy between the Ashetons?
Yeah,
and
I
Iggy?
got the phone call. Yeah, I was on tour with my second man. I was in okay, there's a movie. This is my idea about it. It's Jay Mascis. I first went to Australia to help Porter for Pyros, but then I went there with Jay. But Jay, well, first I did this movie. That's what, actually I meet Ronnie. He goes to Minutemen gigs. The Colonel, the guy who was married to Niagara, maybe still is. they brought Ronnie to Greektown in Detroit to see me play with Minutemen and stuff. That's how I first met Ronnie. But I get to play with Ronnie in 1996 for this movie called Velvet Goldmine. It's like supposed to be a David Bowie guy with a guy that was kind of Ig and Kurt. Todd Haynes and Mike Stipe made this movie. And so they got Ronnie to be, because since they wanted Stooges music, have one of the real Stooges. So I got to play in the studio with, the guys playing TVI right in front of me. And I get to play bass with him. So that was the first time I get to play with him. I meet him, he comes sees me play. And then Jay Mascis, I was telling you I got real sick and he needed a bass for this Jay Mascis in the Fog tour. So I'm on tour and we're in Ann Arbor. He goes, Ronnie. So call him up and tell him to come to the Blind Pig and we jam with some Stooges songs. Jay takes him on tour with us. So half the tour is Jay's songs and then Stooges songs with Ronnie. So I get this call. Now, him and Iggy hadn't talked in 29 years. So I'm on tour with my second man. In 2003, I'm in the second Cow House in Tallahassee. And after sound check, the phone, at the club. And it's Ig. And I go, hello? And he goes, Ronnie says, you're the man. And I couldn't believe it. He said, look, would you wear a T-shirt instead of a flannel? I said, fuck yeah. I said, what about Levi and Converse? He said, that's strong. Then he talked about this nightmare where the drummer was in lime green and the bass player's wearing orange or something. And how the lighting was about this gig at Coachella that was coming up in a couple weeks, in California, right? I'm in Florida on this tour with my second man. When we get to Memphis, I leave those guys. Oh, then he goes to me, he finally gets to the music. He says, now look, however we end the songs, that's how we're going to end them. I was like, whoa, okay. And then 2 weeks later, I leave my guys in Memphis and I fly back to California. We have this practice in Hollywood at SIR. And it's just me and the two Asheton Brothers and Iggy. And I couldn't believe it. It had all these mirrors. It's a practice room, And I'm doing Stooges. Of course, I know all these songs. I'm so nervous, though. And then Brother Steve didn't even prac. He just flew in from San Francisco. I had met him earlier when me and Jay played up in the city. He came on the stage and jammed 1970 with us. Anyway, yeah, we're at Coachella. I thought it was going to be one gig, and it turned out to be 126 months.
Damn.
It was. It really was a mind blow, the whole thing. But it really helped me in so many ways. I can't tell you those guys. I was finally the youngest guy in the band. Of course, I had a million questions for them. My ears would be the size of elephants, like sponges, just soaking everything. It was a million things I would ask them all the time. Maybe it was kind of annoying a little bit, but you got to understand, I never took it for granted. I always thought they deserved my best playing, my best notes, everything. I always tried my hardest for them. Incredible thing for me.
Oh, yeah.
And then later with James Williamson. Actually, that was another thing that was trippy because I thought it was going to end with Ronnie. Everything was trippy with them. So when we did these records, it's just me and Larry. It was just like a debt, kind of thing. It's real personal connect. But I got into music to be with my friend D Boone. I've always taken this shit personally.
Can you talk a little bit about being in the middle of the Asheton Brothers, that telepathy that the two of them had? What was it
Well,
like
Ig
being in the
too,
middle of that?
but Ig too, because here's the thing: Ig's a drummer man. That's where the name comes from. He was in a band called Iguanas, and I know where the name Pop comes from too, because he's actually Iggy Stooge on the first album. There was a guy named Joe Pop in Ann Arbor had lost his eyebrows, ramming his head in the wall, and Scotty. And I say this because the drummer man thing's really important. He teaches Scotty drums so he can be a singer after seeing that they saw the Velvet Underground. And so, even though Scotty's younger than Ronnie, Ig always deferred to Scotty because it's a three-way. So the tiebreaker was always Scotty for Ig. And so and Scotty was kind of stoic. I mean, if it was just you and him, we would talk like crazy, but in front of people and stuff, he really no yammering so much. They did have different kinds of personalities.
Mm-hmm.
But so being in between them, well, it's funny thing about the bass, it's kind of between that. When I was younger, 4-string guitar. And as I got less younger, no, it's 4-string drum set. So, Roddy started out as bass man, and then he went back for the raw power. That's what was trippy with James Williamson. I was playing Ronnie's parts. So the closest note is Scotty's kick drum. The way those guys made me feel. I remember the Hall of Lame thing gave him induction, and Scotty said, Mike was never a stooge, but he could have been one. That kindest thing ever to say. So being in there with them was like being the little brother. And I remember Ronnie telling me that I was always a good sailor. I mean, they really were something else to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, to be there with your heroes, the people who help shape you.
Yeah, I know. And then I'm there for their maybe round 2,
Mm-hmm.
round 3, whatever. You count all the kinds of manifestations. But just being able to be there for them. Because in a trippy way, yeah, you're right, Nate. They were there for me. Ig too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing about the gigs. Also, I mean, they seem like they were like 10 seconds long. And they're the hardest things I've ever worked. Man, take everything out of you. And we always got there 2 hours early. So Ig would go over all the songs in his room with a mirror and a mic stand with a mic, not plugged in. Just do it. This guy pracked like John Coltrane, Eric Dolphy thing. We'd be in the other room, and of course, time would slow down. It seemed like forever before we could hit the stage. And then when it happened, it would be like this tsunami thing of like crazy charge. And you're there in the Stooges music, That's what Scotty called it, stooge music. And it was. I mean, it's all part of the big, I'm not into genres and stuff like that. In fact, you could hear how they listened to all kinds of different stuff when they were getting the band together and were making those records. And it all came out through them. But they, weren't trying to do any of this genre crap. Music is music, and it's a feeling. It's dangling duality. It's them being themselves, but then standing on the giants of all the notes, all the rhythms, that's gone before. I remember Scotty telling me about Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt, which is Pharaoh Sanders, is what Dave used for a little doll. It's trippy. His name was David Michael Alexander, and I'm Michael David Watt. Yeah, he was. I remember asking all about him. That song "Dum Dum Boys" Iggy's talking about,
Yeah.
right? Idiot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember Iggy was talking to me once about. I don't know what brought it up, but we were talking about his records where he's alone, right? The Iggy records. And I told him my favorite was Idiot. And he goes, Mike, that was a very artistic record. And I said, yeah, I really liked it. And that song, Dum Dum Boys, I always thought, he's saying their names, right? In the beginning.
Right.
Rock
Was Dave
action.
OD'd on alcohol? Yeah.
Right. When I graduated high school, something like 76 or something. Wow. You know what I mean? It's trippy to talk about him. It really is. Being a Minuteman, they're always talking about, oh, you guys were so original and stuff like that. And then I got to think of bands like Stooges. And yeah, or Germs, or
Yeah.
the Captain, Captain Beefheart, or John Cole. We would do at the gigs, we would do Funhouse, and there's the LA Blues part. And I always put Love Supreme under there. This guy would start jamming, Brother Steve would bring in. And it was cool. I always wore a John Coltrane pin at the gigs. It was cool with them, And I remember asking Iggy about that IMU. He said, yeah, that was the thing of those times. Oh, my. I thought it was oh, my, but it's oh, mind. You're out of your mind. That's what Iggy's doing that on top. All these kind of things, to be, it was such a trip like that on me. It was always a wonder. I never took one moment with them for granted. Incredible
How
band.
was it? How was it playing those songs? Because they seem deceptively simple, but you got to put everything into it. I imagined it would be exhausting after playing.
I would
set
get
of Stooges material.
cramps. I would get cramps where the hands would be like claws, like lobster claw thing. Yeah, because I wanted to be there every moment for them. I never, hardly ever looked in the crowd, audience people. I was always watching them, especially Iggy. Their thing was connect the dots. It was very like nature, like weather, like the tide, like the wind. It wasn't machinery. It wasn't pushing the buttons on a remote control to change the channel. They could be so you had to will it. You had to be part of their tunes, and the tunes are a trip. Yeah, like you were saying something about simple just because, there's not a lot of chord changes. But the feel thing is really incredible about that. Music can be that way. You can repurpose, like John Coltrane did with that Rodgers and Hammerstein schmaltzy crap. They they were doing it with their tunes. I could hear things though, like the snare and the one in TVI, like Motown thing, or like what they did with that Pharaoh Sanders. You can write a novel without inventing one word and be very original about it. It's the story you're trying to tell. Not making it all form. And Stooges wasn't about form, especially the gigs. Especially the gigs. Every one of those things. I'd write about them. They're up on my Hoot page, I would write in diaries, try to talk about how they were right after, and never could find all the words to do it. I'd go song by song as we were playing them. Every gig, because it never became, uh, same old, same old. It was nothing like that. They were all really unique kinds of things, brands on my brain. And then when Larry joined, so then I had that connection with Larry, because Larry played with Iggy in the 90s. Trippy story about how that app followed him around. So Larry comes back with Scotty can't play. He gets something with the sciatica. So I share that with him. And so that's what we're doing with these things we did for Ord Music here.
Yeah. Is We Will Fall, is that the end of the line for these Stooges
We Will
tributes?
Fall was the one, the Asheton Brothers told me about this. They were recording the first album. When they were Psychedelic Stooges, that's what they're first called. They didn't have songs. The gigs were all just big jams for the moment. And then when they got signed, Danny Fields came for MC5. But hey, I got two bands. They go to New York City and they got to write songs. And at one point, like for example, like Not Right, that's not even practiced, right? That you're hearing the first time they're playing it. Nate's like, no, 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 because Scotty almost played through a part there, or he kind of did. So what happened with We Will Fall? They ran out of Haish, and they said Dave knew this chant that if you said it, you could get high that way. So that's how the tune happened. And so Larry got this idea about using. Larry's got all these things, musical things that are trippy. Mainly stick with bass, but I try with all these ones I do. I try to stick with I do, but I do try to do the voice, because you notice there's no words. Well, this one here we do with the chant actually with words, but usually I try to do Ig's voice with a fuzz bass, a bass through a fuzz tone. Is it going to be the last one? Yeah. Well, I didn't. 4 is a bad number, so there's no way we could have stopped with 4. She is like death in China, right? You don't see, or Japan, you don't see the number 4 parking space. So, in 5, the law of 5s is good. For every 2 things you show, keep 3 secret. I wonder. I know Larry's idea is to have a 6-1, but it's a double album that has everything. Because the way we made the 7-inchers, it's 4 minutes a side, but we made them like 8-minute tunes. 8's the good number.
Yeah.
8's the best number. 8's the infinity sideways. It's 2 4s.
It's the money number too, apparently.
Yeah, but it's the lucky one, right? But think about it, infinity sideways. So that's what he was thinking. Like one album would be this We Will Fall, and then the other 4 7-inchers, each one would be half a side of the other album.
Right.
Or something like that. That's what he was thinking.
Well, that's 4 sides, so that's kind of unlucky. I reckon you go for a triple.
No, but oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, triple album. I don't know. I could do Stooges forever. Stephen Perkins, drummer man here in town. I do, and I've played Stooges with so many different people. I remember doing it with Nels Cline and Steve Perkins at the Monterey Jazz Festival. We were on right after John Schofield, and all these guys sitting in front of us in sweaters and shit. And I thought for sure, and we started with Funhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And man, the boss of the festival came up to us, dug it. I mean, I didn't know you just, coming from the movement and Well, coming like what we did when me and D Boom were boys and people throwing rocks at us and shit. You just charge hard. But I was so surprised that that stuff is universal. So I can see myself doing Stooges forever. Just as long as you don't do a top 40 version of it, to play it gratuitously, some bullshit like if you use it as a launch pad, is you use it for a springboard because that's what it's about. That's what Stooges is about. That's what you got from rock and roll, Little Rich. That tripped me out when he said, because James Williamson came up with a real good lick for Shake Appeal. And I asked Iggy, and he said, that's about little, because its first title is Tight Pants. It's not the end of the story with Stooges. It's always the beginning of something. So you're right. When you say last about anything, it's hard to, in my mind, to really answer that way. Yeah. If you want my answer, I say no, because it's just a possibility things. So
Thank God. The Stooges, I mean, to me, are like the perfect band. They go straight to the soul and they have that swing. I mean, a song like Down in the Street, as soon as that just kicks in,
okay, Scotty,
you can't have a bad day.
Scotty told me the story on that one. Its original title was Down on the Beach. And
Okay.
yeah, think about it. Where the floating around, faces shut. And they said they were at Prague, and he said, "Hey, Gig, man, we're in Ann Arbor. There's no beach." So he named it. Like I said, a lot of times Ig deferred to Scott. He renamed it Down on the Street. But yeah, that's a great lick. And see, that's the thing. I was reading this Dave Gelly's book on Lester Young, and in the Raggedy Time, the idea of getting out of the 2-beat bars and spreading 4 across the bar so the center ain't so square, John. So you do get this swing thing. Also, blues, they told me about taking the bus to Chicago and stuff because when the drummer days, he wanted to get a shuffle thing going. But blues is actually oral music. It was in the fields, work songs. So your hands are full, sort of like sea shanties, right? Your hands are full, but it's music that's tied to a real thing. So feeling comes out of that. So you get out of that metronome thing, and yeah, this Ig with the hand claps. You hear them in the No Fun and Shake Appeal.
Yeah.
The swing thing, it's sort of like Dow with China. That's one thing Scotty gave me when we started doing gigs. I'd go in his hotel room and he'd always have a little Buddha. And he gave me this book called the I Ching. And it had this stuff about the Tao. And like the Tao, you ruin it if you try to talk about it. And it's sort of like the swing, the way, It's a feel thing. You can only get so far with the spiel about this stuff. You're right, Nate.
There's a handful of songs that I think kind of embody that. Down on the Street, Lowrider, and
War?
Shattered. Yeah.
Shattered. That's Ron Wood on the bass. I like that record, Some Girl. I like Satanic Majesties too. They were into Stones. Stooges were always talking about Stones. Yeah. They really were. They always were talking about them. I know Ronnie went and Dave Alexander went to England as teenagers to find the Beatles. But when I was around them, they were always talking about the old Rolling Stones. But Shattered is that's Ron Wood on the bass. He played with Jeff Beck on bass.
Oh.
The Jeff Beck
it
group.
has that perfect that has that
Before
perfect
Faces,
wobble.
Faces was first Steve Marriott, right? And then they got Rod Stewart. He was uh, Ron Wood's friend. Yeah, but see, I'm bringing up people because I really think it is about people. There is traditions in the arts, but the people personify them things, and they have their own way. And actually, we're all born with different, unique thing. With thumbprint, will let you know about that. But at the same time, we share so much in common. And then, and then the other side of it is Pat Boone sold more Tutti Fruities than Little Richard. It's like, what the fuck's that about? And yeah, because Stooges were always not exactly that issue, but there was something about that they had to laugh at, this square thing, and that's. I remember one time Ronnie saying, real Stooge never tucks in the shirt. And I, like an idiot, because I went, like Iggy asked me to wear, that was John Fogerty's idea anyway. But I wore the different T-shirt. Then it came to a couple of years, he had me wearing a boiler suit. But I tucked the T-shirts in. I remember Ronnie telling me shit like that. It didn't compute my head because I didn't really wear shirts without buttons, When I met D. Boone, the only rock band he knew was Creedence. So I couldn't hear the bass. When his mother put me on the bass, I couldn't hear the bass line. So I saw that the singer wore these shirts. So I thought maybe if I wore these shirts, he would still like me. So I didn't really have a tradition of T-shirts. So tucking him in or not, I don't know. But there's these things when I think back now, I was trying to soak it all in, Nate, but some of it, had to be processed later in time. All the shit I learned from them guys, I tell you.
So let me ask you. So I'm sure you learned so much from Ronnie Scott and Ig. You never met Dave Alexander.
And like I said, some of it's like still coming on me now, talking to you, and not realize, like that T-shirt thing. I don't think I ever talked about that before.
But you have this cosmic connection with Dave Alexander. What did you learn about Dave playing his parts?
I thought he wrote some really great parts. I'm a little partial to bass, and James Jamerson's this Detroit bass player on a lot of the Motown records, and he was always, I think his big mission was, how am I going to hook the singer up to Benny Benjamin or Pistol Pete? And he doesn't really know these. Yeah, there's his parts are really, really signature. And also, the idea, I don't know if he articulated with words, but he does in the fields because he's dancing with the kick drum. And that's what I think a good bass part does. And it was okay. Here's a trippy thing. One time, when they first played with Iggy again, it was for his solo record. And one song was Little Electric Chair. So when we're doing this one, Iggy said, I want you to do a bass solo. I was like, what? So I did one, and then he says, you know what? After the gig, he says, why don't you talk with Ronnie? Let him show you how. So Ronnie showed me this stuff. And I'm thinking about this, the bass for Stooges, I mean, them tunes. And then when we do it, that first one after Ronnie showed me, it was in Helsinki. And it came behind me, and you know how you say you feel it? He started beating me in the ass with a microphone so I would feel the beat. And after the gig, under my Levi was all these bruises on my ass. He had pounded bruises in my ass with the microphone. I turned my solo. But you know, I'm bringing that up because you don't think of that with the Stooges, but I think what I think of Dave Alexander's bass part is they're fundamental. And during that first practice in Hollywood before the Coachella gig, I remember he goes, we were doing TVI, and he says, "You're having fun with that, aren't you, Ronnie? Show him." So, and I still think Dave Alexander is schooling me, whatever you call it, cosmically. And then there's Ronnie too, schooling me. And there's Scotty, man. I used to be right next to the drum right there on his. They put him on a riser, which was, but not too high, but so I could be right there for him, with him. It was trippy. I wasn't on the snare. Ronnie was there, so I'm on the tom side. But man, and then Ig too. I wonder about how Dave was on the stage, because I was like feeding off them guys. Where they were peers. I can't say that I ever replaced Dave Alexander. I was there to help as much as I could. There's no way I could replace that guy. And uh, bringing that bass for them, and trying to, yeah, be a student for him. Sit in his classroom. That's the way I got to look at it. I can't look at it as cosplay.
Yeah, Dave always felt to me like he was he was the one that was keeping the floorboards down while the rest of them got
He
to.
is, but it's still got a rubber band thing. There's a rubber band kind of thing going too, though. Still, it ain't all
Mhm.
like, yeah, it ain't like this static bracing. It's
Yeah.
it's rubbery. You know, it's like Bootsy in his own way. Uh, it's really interesting. It's a lot about the feel, a lot of motion, just by little subtle things. See, with low notes, with low frequencies, the more you play, the smaller you get. So it's always a search for the correct notes for the groove. It ain't the most notes. Like humans, the longer they do something, they want to do more of. Well, physics punishes you on the bass. You get too much in there and it starts getting tiny. It starts losing its girth, its punch and its push. And so that's where there's Grail stuff, and he would get that going for the band, along with the kick drum. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a dance going on. There's a dance going on, because in a way, rock action is a big foundation thing too. But so is I remember James Williams never playing a wow wow till he did Ronnie songs, because he had never played Ronnie songs. I mean, there is a version of Stooges where they're both playing guitar. That Ungaro's Carlton put out some of that stuff for a few months. But it's trippy that they were both in their own worlds. And when he came on over, I bet you that was kind of like, even though he played with the man as a peer, you know, you taking on that job, trippy thing,
Mm-hmm.
trippy thing, a learning thing, and being in the moment, being conscious of this stuff. Like, it's not just flicking a switch and playing the part. You got to get there and work that thing. That's what Ig's doing. That's what the other three guys are doing. Brother Steve's doing. By the end there, at first he was only playing from the funhouse stuff out then he's playing every tune. Ig loved Brother Steve's because I think the sax, the voice is close. He found, like with Scotty and the rock action thing with the drums, Ig's finding the connections with his band, with the guys he's playing with. I really thought that was interesting. Also, to connect with the crowd. Ig's this trippy thing. Also, as people, I got to tell you, I mean, Stooges sounds like they're fucking idiots or something. But they like the Three Stooges. They even called up Mo, talked to him. And he said, it's okay. Just don't say Three Stooges. So they're just Stooges. But Ronnie with history and Scotty with nature and Brother Steve with politics and Ig with culture. These guys could talk to you for a million years about shit. It was so interesting to be around them off stage, on stage, the whole fucking thing. I wish I could relate it.
Get a whole education.
It sounds like you're sincere about Stooges, and you really want to know about him. And I tell you, it was a thing, It wasn't just some punch the clock fucking thing. So getting back to this and relating to us like what we're talking about, Henry Rollins got me that. I got the box.
That box?
That the Rhino people, yeah.
Oh yeah.
First I had the CDs, and I couldn't believe it was 23 losers and shit. Yeah, I thought all that stuff was first thing. That's the way Scotty wanted to do that Weirdness album, just a big jam.
So let's talk a little bit about that. How did you go from? So you went from Coachella, which was one gig, all of a sudden it became this tour, and then
especially the summertime, and especially in Europe, and especially France, but all over the place. But there were some U.S. tours, and of course we did some a big day out in Australia, and then. Some kind of, the last time we were there, it was with the Suburban. Oh, God, they're all gone except Tex.
Tex Perkins, yeah.
They're all gone but Tex now. They're great cats. Brian. Sweet guys. But that was the last time we were there. And it was some kind of, it was a big day out. That had ended. I had done two of those with Stooges. One with the Ronnie one with the James Williamson one, and I did one with Pardo for Pyros. But there was a couple U.S. tours with Stooges, but a lot of it was in Europe. So that's what it happened. All of a sudden, all these gigs, lots of gigs, especially during the summertime. So a lot of flying.
So you did the Coachella, and then all of a sudden the bookings.
That's in March of 2003. So
then the bookings started coming in.
And that summer, because they only done one gig in Raw Power, that gig at Scala in London. That pictures Mick Rock took. That's on that. That's the only gig they did overseas. Then I remember the next one was how many years later, right? At, whatever, 29 years later at Vitoria-Gasteiz in the Basque Country in Spain. And I remember the Cramps played before us, and Lux and Ivy was on the stage watching us the whole time on the side there. Lux broke a vodka bottle over his fucking head out, and without knocking himself out. I don't know how he did that. It wasn't fake. I mean, that was a great gig. But that was the first overseas. Then we start doing all that stuff, and they start snowballing more and more and more than like half the year. I'm flying, but they still let me do my Mike Watt things. I do my second opera. I do my third opera because we go up to September 23rd, 2013 is the last gig in San Jose.
So at what point did the discussion about new music come up? When did you start talking about what became
Well, that's Weirdness, right? That's in Chicago in 2007. The Weirdness with Steve Albini.
Yeah. So you guys have been playing live for years, and now you're like,
now
let's...
2007. So 2003, we've been playing for, about 3.5 years, 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's when Ig thought we were at the height. I remember him talking. There was something about 2006, 7. He thought was the high water mark. I remember we did Katrina, right? Happened, and we were at the Redden Festival. It was that same day. It was 100 degrees in England. It's usually not like that. So that's what I think it was. Ig thought this was the time to do a record. But we ended up doing a record with James Williamson, too, for Fat Possum.
Mm-hmm.
But
Ready to Die.
that's what they told me. They wanted to make a record with Steve Albini. It was after a few years of playing. I think, because that's scary to do after a lot of years, I can imagine. I've never tried that.
Well,
you go back,
especially their early records are so beloved and cornerstones. How do you go beyond that?
I don't know. And me, I had this nightmare. I want to be buried at sea, but I had this nightmare where there's a gravestone and it's just written on it is "fucked up a Stooges gig." So let alone for fuck up a Stooges album. It was scary. It was scary for me. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, they called it The Weirdness. And there's a song on there called The Weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Ig saying we were backstage once after a gig, because he'd always be doing the debriefings after the gig, talking to us. And, which I dug. I really liked that. He said something about he didn't want it to be a 3-legged stool or something. I don't know, but I can't pretend, Nate, I was a stooge, I was there to help as much as possible. But I don't share their young part. So I don't know what it was like. I know I was shitting. I conked. I didn't use a tell. I conked at the studio there. Steve Albini had a room. He had a cat. It was, kind of nerve-wracking for me because I did want to do my best for them. And it ain't like a gig. A record ain't like a gig.
But was the writing collaborative, or how did those tracks come together?
Yeah, they would go down to Miami. Hig lives on Cayman, and he had a pad in Miami, and they would go down there and play together. I saw this little toy drum set that Scotty would use, because Ig had me come down there to work out the bass with him. And then we went there to go prac. That was a trip, because we fly there from Miami. He gave me a tour. He's driving me around Ann Arbor, showing me stuff. See, over here's a building where Ted Nugent asked him to be the singer of Amboy Dukes, and he took everything not to be laughing at this guy. He told me.
Did he show you the fun house? Did he show you the fun house? Did you drive by that?
No, we did. We did.
Oh.
This was more. This was in Ann Arbor, and we went by the place where he said, "Look at that window. That's where John Sinclair used to roll the Lenos." The MC5 ends up moving to Ann Arbor. Showed me where they lived. So we didn't go by the. But I heard a lot about the fun house, especially from the Asheton Brothers. And, and I stayed at the house, Kathy's made it into a studio. The pad, right? They grew up in.
The Asheton family home, yeah?
Yeah, it's next to a boneyard. Ronnie used
Is
to
it
always.
Still in.
Yeah, she has it. She turned it into a studio. The dress is like, what's the name? Ronnie used to feed animals, take care of strays, possums, raccoons, and cats and stuff. Because the backyard, the boneyard was right on the other side. I mean, it's really old, right? Civil War things. I stayed there many times. One time almost choked on bourbon, conked out, and Ronnie rolled me over. I spent a lot of time there with him. Wow. Yeah. But the record was done in Chicago at Electrical Audio. Steve Albini.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, he had the Funhouse poster. Ronnie's in the white pants. Jay always tripped on that too. You know, we all, for us guys, man, that was a trip. That was a trip.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Jay's first a drummer. He learned guitar. Finally, because they said thank you to him, because Jay wouldn't tell anybody, but he's probably the reason why that thing got going again. He thanked me for getting
Yeah.
Ronnie playing, but Ronnie was playing. He had that Dark Carnival with Niagara and stuff. But it was Jay taking him on that tour. But, you know, he's a drummer,
Jump-starting him.
man, and he learns guitar by listening to Funhouse. In fact, he never really was into raw power. He thought it was too rockabilly. That's what he told me.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's a personal thing, Stooges, as it should be. It's not generic. And that's what me and Larry wanted to show with these, you know, interpretations of their work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and how people can pick up on that stuff, you know. You know, it's like learning a language to tell your own story. The Stooge gift for me just keeps giving and stuff. And I wanted to pay some on the debt. And Larry wanted to do this. And then Andrew at Org, you know, he just always wanted, yeah, let's do this. And connected with the record store day, you know, the records. That's trippy too. I think they've all been done with record store day.
Yeah. All of them. Yeah. And there's not that many. There's not that many. So people have to hunt for them a bit, which is kind of fun.
Okay. Yeah. I remember Stooges got to play Russia 3 times and seeing versions of Stooges there. Stooges albums, the first album. This guy brought one to the gig to have me sign. Yeah. You know, that whole thing of it about them being lingua franca. You know, it really is. It really is about that. You know, Sly Stone said, it's not where you're from, it's where you're at. And that's what the Stooges, you just start rapping to somebody about that, and it's okay. Nothing else matters. I like that.
Yeah. If I turn on the news and I learned an asteroid was heading toward Earth and we had about an hour left, I would definitely put on Funhouse. No question. That's the one.
1969, okay. Remember David Thomas, the Perubu singer, man, saying, yeah, I can't believe those words. Now I'm going to be 22, oh my, and a boo. Very Kano, man. Talk about damn Kano. They could distill it, you know.
You got any memories of working with Dennis Tech? I think he played some of the
Dennis Tech
shows, didn't he?
Okay, I'll tell you. There's a gig. Well, when you see Ronnie in that Army thing, that's actually a Navy coat. And that's from Dennis Tech. Because he was a doctor with the Navy when he was at Australia, right? The Radio Birdman. But there was a show done for Ronnie in Ann Arbor. And Scotty said that Dennis did the best Ronnie guitars. So we did some songs, me and Scotty, with Dennis Tech on the guitar. And Ronnie really liked Dennis. He's very kind to me. I mean, he made some records later with James Williamson. I think they both live in Hawaii.
He's still doing it. But you know, one record not a lot of people know about too much outside of Australia is the new race band with Ronnie,
Oh yeah.
Dennis,
Oh yeah.
Dennis Thompson, MC5, Rob Young.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, that
See, good.
is a great record.
Yeah. There's a Ronnie told me about the gig where the singer got wasted and ruined the whole. It was a showcase.
Oh,
Where
what?
there's some drama.
Okay.
Yeah, that those Hollywood years are intense. You know, and if I was a teenager, if I would have known, I thought all gigs were arena. I didn't know about clubs till the movement. Just didn't fucking know. You know, but I got to learn a lot about that stuff. Yeah, but he was always talking about Dennis Tech and a very good friend of his. Like I said, Scotty
Yeah.
thought he could play the guitars closely to him. And you know, the Radio Birdman is them hearing the fucking words wrong in 1970. Radio
Absolutely.
Burning. Yeah. They were on one of those big day outs when they were coming back together. Yeah. Maybe it was the first one with Ronnie. I know the second one with James Williamson was Rammstein, but there would be always a lot of Australia bands too. Of course, it's Australia Festival. And then I know the first one was with Nick Cave when I did with Pearl for Pyros. Bad Seeds. Man, I didn't start writing diaries until the late 90s. It's hard to sometimes remember this shit. But luckily I did it to almost every Stooge gig. I got diaries for all those things. You can go to MikeWatt.com and actually read my words in the moment. It was fucking all kinds of clams, you know, because I didn't really edit myself. I just put it out there. You know, the Tekapo people wanted to do this bio with me. And they say, well, you don't write, you know, you do poetry and shit. And I said, well, look, I don't need one anyway because all my stuff's up on the Hoop page. So fuck you very much. No, they want to like own all the rock and roll books or music books. I don't know what's. And that this poor young kid, they come over, but like as told to.
Mm-hmm.
John Doe had me write a chapter in his bio book, but you know, and there's nothing wrong with writing. I'm way into writing. I just finished a reread of Moby Dick. I'm doing this one right now on Eric Dolphy.
Oh.
Yeah. Or that Coleman one's on the way when I get done with this. I've been really into reading these bios because, like I was saying earlier, it's a lot about people. Music is a lot about people. It is something about physics and nature and the world and birds, but it's also about people and stories and things like that. And sometimes, like you say, a band can bring it together, and that's for me the Stooges.
Yeah. They're the perfect band for me. And I'm so appreciative of folks like yourself and Larry continuing to bring that fire, continuing to light those candles with these sort of releases and sharing these sort of stories. You know, I bet you every day you probably remember like one or two more things you may have forgot over time about your.
I know the tuck it in the T-shirt.
You tuck it in the T-shirt. There you go.
Tuck it in the T-shirts. Stooges don't tuck in the T-shirts.
That's a good name for a Stooges cover band, the Untucked Shirts.
Yeah, he said tuck in shirts, and I was wearing T-shirts, you know, for the gigs. I wore a different. I never wore the same T-shirt twice.
No? Okay.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. I tried to find a shirt, and in fact, there was a fucked up time. I remember the Voodoo Festival in New Orleans. Somebody gave me an orange shirt. Remember that thing where he had that nightmare he was telling me on the first phone call? And here I am. And so we're about to go on. He goes, hey, Mike, you're looking a little orange. And I remembered that shit on the phone. So he goes, why don't you be like me and go up there with no fucking. So I played the gig with no shirt. Only one. Yeah, I felt like a fucking. He got me to play a shirt. Of course, I'd do anything for those guys, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, here I'm in the orange shirt, like he said in the dream. At least Scotty wasn't in the lime green. You know, the front man is different. He's got the big picture. We're operating machines, so we're too tied in to the moment. He gets the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then I remember getting this call that he said, yeah, there was this war surplus store up in Hollywood, and I got this boiler suit and it had all these pockets. So why don't you try one of them? So I wore one of those for a couple years. And when
Yeah.
Ronnie died, we lost him. He said, flannel is a kind of cotton. That pattern, that's plaid, but the fabric is actually, it's a way of brushing cotton. And he says they got them all black. They don't have to be plaid to be flannel. So I
Mm-hmm.
found black flannel, and then I found black Levi's. So when I first started playing with James Williamson, I wore black flannel shirt, like Iggy said, and black Levi's. And then after a couple years, I remember I got, for some reason, I looked in the mirror, my hair was gray. So I thought of Dickies. One reason I thought of Ig why he liked Steve Albini. He liked Steve Albini and those guys that worked at his studio wore boiler suits. And he liked
Yeah, they
this
were dressed
idea
like mechanics.
like you're going to go to work, right?
Yeah.
So I thought Dickies, the work clothes, so and then the hair like gray. So I wore, that's the last stuff I wore. I had outfits with Stooges.
When's the last time you talked to Ig?
On his B-Day, I call him up. So it's over the phone, and it really, when we lost Brother Steve, that hit him hard, man. I mean, Scotty too. Jesus. Ronnie. Yeah, he loved those guys. But, yeah, it's around the other record store day. It's his B-Day.
Mm-hmm. Okay, around April-ish, something like
April,
that.
right. 21. Okay. So that's, I used to have the leash, the ringer on the leash. I have it do Love Supreme if it goes off, but not when he calls. It's fucking the beginning of TVI. So, yeah, I know it's him naked on my leash.
That's the call you take. Mike, it's been such a joy. Thank you so much for spending time, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Nate. Love talking about Stooges, and thank you for burning bright for them.
Oh, it's not a choice, man. It just happens. It's I got to do it. It's just kind of
like real old mine. Real old mine. He's on those people's with the peanut butter shit, and he's doing that. He would do that dance, and that's out of your mind. All this slang.
Yeah.
I want to be your dog. Ronnie told me that's what you would say if you liked a girl. He says all that stuff is their part of their lingo. It's their
TVI is twat vibe, right?
Yeah, Kat would be watching him prac. It's not the box. No, television. No.
Larry mentioned something earlier about, and I never really put this together, but Ig's got these, he's big into birds, and the way he dances and moves on stage is very bird-like. It's like a bird, like in a mating dance. I never noticed that.
Scotty was into birds. He could tell the calls and stuff of the nature. No, he's way into that. He's also was good in swimming. He's all about, there's a bird thing. Big time a bird.
Yeah.
And birds, they're dinosaurs. Dinosaurs ain't lizards. They're, the lizards, the arms are on the sides. Crocodiles are on the side.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs have them down like chickens, turkeys. And
yeah. That's interesting. Because it is very primal, and in fact, the kind of the movements and everything. I think that's why the Stooges resonate so deeply within fans because it is primal music. It's the things that our lizard brains are attuned to and mean something to us deep inside.
Yeah. That lick in '69, boom, 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 boom. I mean, yeah, it's econo. But look at, like I was mentioning, repurposing that schmaltzy. It goes major and minor and with the birds in it. But John Coltrane breaks that down to boom, 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 boom. And then he uses it in his Love Supreme.
Mm-hmm.
He gets it down, even in that heady stuff where the harmonies and stuff, Stooges were into that stuff, and it shows. It shows. And notice how the different kinds of dinosaurs, too, on birds.
Mm-hmm.
Scotty told me there was a bird in Michigan, a thresher. It's born knowing 5,000 songs. How? So it's deceptive that, like we were talking about, the simplicity and shit. There's actually a lot of nuance and a lot of fucking... That's the dangling duality of it.
Wow, he's so cool. I love Mike Watt. The interview just kind of abruptly ended, and that's due to a digital file that we were creating while we were doing it. But don't worry, we got everything. The only thing you missed is when Watt says, keep your keel in the water. So I want all of you guys to do exactly that. Keep your keel in the water, and don't forget Record Store Day. Larry Mullins, Mike Watt, We Will Fall, 1,000 copies on vinyl available worldwide from Org Music. Grab it if you can. And that's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Appreciate everyone leaving those positive reviews and sharing them online. And those of you who are supporting us via our Patreon page, patreon.com/Vinyl Guide. Well, there's a special place in heaven for each of you. We'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, you all behave yourselves. And thanks again for listening to the Vinyl Guide podcast. Cheers.